There's a pub at the end of my road. It's nothing remarkable. Worn wooden floors, um, fireplace that works maybe 50% of the time during winter, and a bell that never rings, and I'm really not sure what it's for. And for most of my life, I would have assumed when I looked at this place that it was just a bar, somewhere you go to drink. You have a transaction. You buy a drink, you drink it, you leave. That's it. But after a year here, I understand that I am looking at something completely different than a bar. It's not a bar at all. It's something else entirely. And the longer I sit in my little corner on a wet Tuesday, the more I have come to believe that it might be one of the most important buildings in Britain, actually. But digging into pubs, and you know I love pubs, I found a number that it upset me, I'm not going to lie, that would made me want to make this video. And that is that right now across Britain, every single day, two pubs close. Not two a week, not two a month, two every day. I don't think outsiders understand what kind of loss this truly is. So let's take a look at what's going on with the British pub properly. What actually is a British pub if you are an outsider? Well, it is a concept that sociologists like to call the third place. It is not your home, it's not your work. Home would be the first place, work would be the second place, and a neutral location would be the third place. Not a place of a family member, not a place where you are employed, but just a place where you are a person with no particular agenda. The third place is where community actually takes place, and not the organized kind with a newsletter, but the accidental kind, the kind where you end up talking to someone who you probably would have never met otherwise. And you're not even there to talk about anything particular. You're just there in a community space together. And it is, I think, what stitches neighborhoods together into one. The British pub, I think, is possibly the finest example of what a third place does and what purpose it serves its community. In my local, because that's what I've learned we call it, there's a guy that's there every Thursday night on trivia. He is sitting by himself. He is in the same chair every Thursday, and he is talking to whoever is around him. Now, this might be the only time he is out every single week. And this might be the only human contact he has every single week. And it's not organized, it's not some charity setting this up. It is him just going to a pub that simply exists. And at his age, being able to find a place you can easily walk to and interact with people is really, really important. He is a regular, and there are plenty of regulars that you will start to see at these places. People have been coming to these same pubs for 30, 40 years. They have watched landlords come and go. They have their own seats, their own jokes, their own long running arguments that will never be solved. And I don't think they're actually meant to be solved, but it's part of the fun drama of it. In America, we have lost this. We have lost our third place. We used to have third places, the corner tavern, the diner, the barber shop, even the bowling alley. But over two generations, we have quietly just let most of these places dissolve. In Britain, you still have this, or at least you still had it. It's still here on life support. But I think you're still currently deciding mostly by accident if you want to keep it. I found this really interesting. So, the history of the pub. How did this all begin? And to understand why the loss of a pub really matters is to understand its origins. So, believe it or not, it started with the Romans. They came here, they built roads, and on the side of these roads, they built what is called tabernae, roadside taverns, where you could sell wine, food, travelers, soldiers, everyone stopped in these places. That's 2,000 years of history of this idea of a place where people can just go together. A public room with a stranger and you can sit, you can drink, you can have a little rest. Then the Romans leave, but the idea does not. The idea stays. And through the early medieval ages, a lot of these alehouses would be in someone's actual home. And when the ale was done brewing and ready for business, the person would put something out, maybe a shrub. And that is how you would know it was open, because a lot of people were illiterate at this time. So having a visual aid let people know, hey, it's time to come on in and hang out with everybody. And that's why you see a lot of pubs with fun, unusual names now. That was essentially their sign to let people know, welcome. Now, some of these same buildings are still serving pints today. Think about that. You can drink in a room that has been pouring for people since before the printing press even existed. And then the fancy pubs. These are the Victorian pubs. They came around and they made everything just very grand and maybe slightly ludicrous. I think of gin palaces when I think of the Victorians. Enormous, gleaming brass mirrors, but they were still built to lure in the working class. Some of the most beautiful pubs that you will come to see in this country are from that time period. And then you get to the 20th century, and it all settles into something called the local. Not grand, not a palace, just a pub at the end of the road, embedded into an ordinary street, serving an ordinary community. So when a pub closes, you're not just losing a place that sold beer. You are severing a thread through time, through the Victorians, through the medieval ages, all the way back to the Romans. You're losing the idea of a medieval alehouse. You're losing the idea of Roman roads. These are living continuations of British social life that have existed for over 1,000 years unbroken. And there's 2 closing a day. But why are they closing? So why is this happening now after 2,000 years? You would think, how? And I think it's very tempting to reach for one villain, but I don't think there's one villain to this story. There's a stack of pressures adding to this that are sadly lethal. And one being energy costs. You can imagine that a pub is enormously energy hungry as a building. The cellars have to be kept cold, the kitchens run hot, and the rooms have to be heated and lit for long periods of time. So when energy prices spike, you have to pass that charge along, and it gets to a point where you just cannot afford all of those bills as a individual pub owner. That layer of debt, and then you add in COVID. Many of these pubs had to take out loans to get through people not being able to come in. And while things are still slowly bouncing back, the cost of living has gone up and those debts still exist. And they still have to be repaid. So it's basically like trying to dump water out of a sinking lifeboat. Also, you have drinking habits themselves. Everyone knows younger generations are drinking half as much, and I don't think that is a bad thing at all. But when your business model counts on people coming in and assumes the room is going to be buying multiple rounds of drinks, that hits your pocket too. Although I do think it's worth mentioning, like I had a friend come visit me from the States who doesn't drink, and I was like, let's go to the pub. She's like, I don't drink. Most pubs these days have non-alcoholic options. There are full types of beers on tap that are non-alcoholic. There are mocktails, so you can still come and enjoy the atmosphere without having to drink. So please don't forget that. Another thing is that you can buy beer at the supermarket for really cheap and sit at home in your skivvies on the couch and not have to, spend money. But that's not, you know, the purpose of a pub. The purpose is the community part, not drinking at home on the couch. One other thing I think is a huge effect here that I didn't realize till I moved here is that there are chains that have come in and bought pubs, and they are owned largely by one or two companies. Basically, you have the same beer at all of these chain locations. The prices are very inflated. So even though that pub may be full and it's loved and it's doing everything right, the chain pub just outcompetes with its overhead. And I think that's really like the cruelty of it, because it's not that the demand is the problem, it's the structure. And over all of it sets that general cost of living crisis that everyone almost around the world is dealing with right now. And it hits from both ends at once when you have a pub. It hits the customer's pocket, it hits the business. So when people need a cheap night out amongst friends, a lot of people can't afford to go to the pub anymore. Like I said, there's a pub on the end of my street, and I think what I've also learned is that pubs are a very regional representation of the culture they're in. There is no such thing as a single British style pub. They come in all shapes and sizes. They represent all different types of walks of life and their community. If you were to go into the Cotswolds and go to the pub, it is where the entire village meets. Often because people are going to church less. The only thing you have shared is the post office. So the pub is the parish hall, the restaurant, the living room of the entire community. And if you go to one of those Victorian pubs on the end of the corner, those are typically in the big city, and it's a completely different type of clientele. It is always churning people out. But when you are new to that neighborhood, even if you're only staying for a few years, that's where you go to get to know the people that surround you. And then, up in Manchester, they have union student pubs full of chaos. Beers are cheaper, but this is a different community once again, and equally important, where everyone goes. And I think in the States, bars are kind of the only place that college kids can go, because you might have a billion roommates, and it's the third place. But now that people are drinking less, that's going on less. But again, it's where you go at any age to learn how to socialize or to keep practicing your social skills. The pub in the small village in the Cotswolds tells you about scarcity and preservation. The corner Victorian pub tells you about flux in business and reinvention. And the student union pub in Manchester will tell you about new beginnings and the excitement of life ahead. That flexibility is exactly why it has survived 2,000 years. And it's exactly what makes each individual closure a loss, because you're never losing just a generic pub. You are losing that one pub, that one thread through the community, and it's an important thread. So what does this loss actually cost in your life? I want to be careful here, because I think it would be very easy to get all nostalgic about this and, warm beer, golden lights, nights out, the good old days kind of thing. But that's not what it is. It's not purely a sentimental thing. It's a human cost, and it is very measurable. And I think it starts with loneliness. And Britain, like most of the developed world, is not unique in this and is not avoiding this. There is a loneliness epidemic. It is a genuine public health issue. And the third place is often one of the few pieces of this infrastructure that treats loneliness without anyone having to go out of their way to obtain it or make schedule or buy tickets. You just walk in for a pint. And not being alone is just kind of smuggled into the idea. It never vanishes while you're there. I think about the guy on Thursday nights at trivia that I see there. And if this pub closes, he may not go to another pub. He may not be reassigned to his new pub. He might just end up staying home. And that is the kind of mechanism that creates this loneliness epidemic that people are dealing with. It's not just one, not just two places, it's 1,000 rooms going dark. And I think it also has the informal duty of civic life. The pub is where unofficial community business happens. It's where you have settled a dispute with a neighbor over a table than with 1,000 lawyers. It's where you found out someone was ill that you knew and organized without a single meeting on how to help them out, take turns checking in on them. It's a board of civil infrastructure, and where the pub goes, the board goes with it. And there is genuinely nothing digital that can replace this. For centuries, people have gathered after weddings, after christenings, after work. They can come after a funeral because nobody wanted to go straight home to an empty house. Where they spent most of their time is in this place for every occasion and for no occasion. But it is one of the last rare things, I think, in modern life. A place where you are welcome for no reason, no purchase pressure beyond buying a drink, no agenda, no clock. If that disappears from a neighborhood, the neighborhood doesn't announce that it's lost something. It just feels a little colder, a little more transactional, a little less like a collective of front doors that are open to everyone on the street. But let's go back to my own country, in America. I think America is a cautionary tale here. And you all here in Britain should really look at it closely, because Americans will tell you that they have third places. We have sports bars, we have chain restaurants, we have an entire coffee shop industry practically built on the promise of being your place. And yet none of them quite work the same way as a pub does. And I say this as someone who spent 39 years assuming that these places did exist in the States. But the sports bar is not neutral. It's a loud place built around sports with a giant screen that everyone looks at. And when the game ends, everyone rushes out. And the chain restaurant, well, it just wants you to eat and give your table back so it can turn over service. And the coffee shop, I mean, come on, let's be honest. Most of them have put in things that like chairs that are so uncomfortable you don't stay very long, and encourage quiet, not talking, and you just sit there on your laptop. It's not a community place at all. Physically, yeah, I guess they're technically a third place, but socially, they are not a third place. But why did America lose the third place? Some of it's by design. We built ourselves into suburbs, and we, like I said, are always in our car. Many places don't have anything walking distance to where they live, and you cannot just casually drop in somewhere, and you have to worry about driving, drinking, getting home. How far is it? And another big fact is commercialism and capitalism. We handed our gathering spaces over to chain restaurants. Chains optimized the location for in and out, but not for belonging. And some of it's cultural, We came to treat time spent with others doing nothing particularly just spending time with someone in the companies of others, as wasted time, not invested time. Britain, it still has that thing that America forgot how to build. A walkable, unhurried, unstructured place where staying is the point rather than the problem. And that's not a small advantage. That's a genuine piece of social wealth. And it is being spent at the cost of 2 pubs a day. And people assume that it will always just be there. So I was trying to think of ways, what can you do? What can I do? What can we do to save the local pub? I think first is clear, if you're going to go in, just buy a drink. Doesn't have to be an alcoholic one, it can be a non-alcoholic one. And your tip is not, the money. Your tip is being there, adding to it, supporting it. Every seat may be occupied, but if no one's spending any money in the pub, it's quietly losing money. So, buy a snack, buy some halloumi fries, buy a shandy. I love that. Also, as an American, I didn't know I could buy quarter pints and half pints. So you don't even have to commit to a full pint, but just, throw your change in the jar kind of thing. And I think another big thing we can do to help support pubs is support your independent pubs. The chain pubs will be fine, but please, your pub is, if it's independent, genuinely needs your support and genuinely appreciate it. So if you are a tourist here and you're coming to visit, please go to the independent pub. You will be so happy you did, and you'll have a much better beer selection on tap. And yeah, just do that. Fourth thing I think we can all do is use your pub for more than drinking. Many pubs offer trivia nights. They have live music. They will have, one of the pubs down the street from me actually has comedy shows every week. There really are community events in these spaces. So look up your local pub and look on their calendar, and you might be surprised of all the things they offer outside of having a drink. You can do so much. And fifth, a daily choice. If you have the option between a coffee shop and the pub, whether you just want to sit somewhere for a little bit and be a human being, whether you want to interact with someone or not during the day, during lunchtime, go in there. You can get a cup of coffee in there, sit down, and enjoy your community. But in the past year, sitting in my little local, I think I've finally come to understand what a pub actually means. It is where you and I get to know each other. It's where you get to know everyone that lives in the buildings around you that you may not have run into in the street. It's where you get to know what is going on in your community, how you can help your community, and keeping an eye on people that might be lonely otherwise. So like the bar in America, just doesn't hit it. Doesn't feel the same. It's not like a British pub. And the pub is not the beer, it's not the building, it's something irreplaceable. So if you can, please support your local third space. Don't let these disappear. They're so important. And I appreciate them as an outsider. This is 2,000 years of history. Don't let it go. But thank you for listening to me ramble about how much I really enjoy pubs. But I love watching people, as you've probably gathered from watching my channel, and I love seeing social structure and how they work. And it's been so fascinating being an American, speaking the same language, but also seeing the differences in those structures. And God, the pub is just so much more than I expected. But on that note, I think it's time I go to my local and get a shandy, because this heat wave is killing me. And nothing is better than a shandy in a heat wave. So I'll see you at the pub. If you liked this video, please do me a favor and give it a like and subscribe. Also, Special thanks to my members and our weekly live stream every Sunday night. I've also set up a store now if you want to check that out, as well as a Patreon where you can get access to videos not on my channel, as well as early access without ads to videos from this channel. Thanks, I'll see you in the next one.